All right. So, good morning, everybody. Today we're going to go over the September 2025 software release uh, and recap those releases. We're going to start with USAS. So, at the SSDT meetings and training page below for the 2025, we'll go to the September page and again start with USAS, which had 2 regular releases and 4 hot fixes, most of which had to do with the new financial forecast, which replaced the 5-year forecast. And it was per the ODEW House bill. So let me pull it up. The columns were updated per what they wanted. The summary tab, percentage view, and the view tabs, forecast tab, were also updated. But to give you a better recap, in our September newsletter, we had an article regarding the forecasting requirements. And this specifically mentions all the changes that were taking place this year with the hot fixes, with the releases. And so you can find a lot of good information here. So like I mentioned, the forecast columns were updated. And later we'll talk about how the Excel format that was fixed. And then the column headers. So, and then FAQ questions regarding the financial forecast. So that will do the recap for all that. And then in regards to the 1099 TAP file, the spaces in the file were replaced with zeros based on the 1099 specs and what they wanted. So now that's been updated. And then the account change process has been improved by 83 to 99% in different areas in the performance, such as updating purchase orders, AP invoicing, and disbursement transactions. And again, additional enhancements are planned on future releases as well. The bugs were also included, one that had the financial forecast, which if you go to the output tab here, it's the cell that wasn't adding correctly. So now that bug has been corrected. And again, you are able to generate the Excel format of the financial forecast now as well. And then USAS had a couple patches. One was in regards to like a specific user that had a custom expenditure grid that was stuck and holding the district from moving on. So the patch or internal fix was restore it back to the default settings. And then they updated jobs to accept to resume on restart if it was ever interrupted. Any questions on USAS releases for the month of September? With inventory releases, the Open ID Connect integration is now implemented in inventory. It's still a work in progress and only available to the Management Council hosted applications, but there's more to come in the future for the self-hosted as well. And then they updated, hold on. They updated the recalculate option to display an error if the item had no acquisitions. What it was doing was since it had no acquisitions, it was updating the original cost to 0 because it had no acquisitions. So now it will prevent it from updating the original cost to 0. So that's been an improvement. And then a couple bugs that were in inventory, which fixed a problem that prevented a user's last login from properly updating. They also corrected a bug that prevented the fiscal year bundle from generating when the fiscal year was closed. If you can still reopen the year and close it again if for some reason you did not get the bundle via email, you can still do that now, reopen the year and close it again. And they also corrected the depreciation calculation to check for null and empty values for the factor field. Excuse me. And then they updated the item importer to validate field lengths and the case sensitivity similar to the item view. So if we went into the asset class, it is gonna, the asset class code should be 2 to 4 characters long. And it's gonna validate that. It's also gonna validate that it has the, sorry, the asset class type on the asset class code. Sorry, I have a bug in my throat. They also corrected the item grid to sort properly by location code. So this is now working properly. And then lastly, they disabled a patch that was set up back in January 2025 to assist districts with closing fiscal years that were created before the actual import date. The patch was updated. The patch didn't run the fiscal year end process, but it updated the fiscal year to be closed for 2 districts. So now that patch has been removed because it's no longer needed. And that's all I have for both USAS and inventory. If you have any questions or if you think of any questions, just place them in chat. And I'll pass it over to Andrea. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Okay. Welcome to the payroll part of the releases for September. We have, where'd they go? Get it over. There we go. There we go. So let's see. Okay, so the payroll releases for September, we had 3 regular and 2 hot fixes throughout the month. The first one is a new feature that was added. Now districts can download the error message and stack traces in the application log viewer. And where they would find this would be under Systems and Monitor and under the app log. So again, it's only for the error, and it's not for info or any debugging, which is on when you debug for EMIS. Those are not available, just if there's an error and stack trace. So if you click on that, open that up, and you go to the bottom, you'll see this new message now, and you can download that. You can save it or open it, and then you'll get a message like this. Again, that's the biggest message I have, but if it was a full page, that would be very helpful. Then you can save that if you need to send that to us then at SSDT to look at. So hopefully that would be a little bit helpful. And then the next one is improvements. So some new improvements we did were to convert the race custom fields in the employee property So no, they're no longer custom. So now when the change, if they have any mass load sheets at your districts that already have them created for updates or creating new employees, if they do mass load, they want to make sure that they change this header to primary race. Before, I think it was custom field dot primary race or something like that. So you just want to make sure that is changed in their header on those spreadsheets. And we also updated those in our mass load documentation. So those are corrected there also. And then also for converting the phone number, that was another one they changed on the employee. So again, if they have mass load and they already have these spreadsheets saved at their districts that they reuse all the time, they want to make sure that they update those contact header fields to work phone, and home phone unlisted, because it's no longer the custom field in front of it. So again, just remind your districts that needs to be updated. And again, in the mass load documentation, we have that updated. So now when they go to mass load, those are all updated here also. So before they had that custom fields in front of it, so those changed. So those no longer have that in front of that. So that's kind of what I was talking about. And then also for primary race. Okay. The next one, there's a new option now that the districts, I think, were wanting for W-2 printing. They still wanted to include the digital W-2 only employees in the XML and forms files when they're printing those. So now districts have that option to print all the employees, non-digital and digital. So that was added under reports, W-2 reports, and then the forms in XML. And that you'll find that way down here underneath the name. So if they check that, now all employees are going to be included on this W-2 forms in the XLM. But you have to make sure you go to XML and then switch that. So again, that's just an option if they want that. And I believe it's not defaulted to be checked, so they will have to remember to check that. Okay. The next one was the GM roles, general managers, they were wanting, besides the admin users, to unlock and lock users. So now that has been updated. So now when a GM user at the district can go into the user. For some reason, I'm having problems this morning with this. There it goes. You can, now they can lock and unlock if a user is locked. So that has been updated. The next one is the new import contracts. Before, you could only, when you're importing new contracts, if you do those by spreadsheets, once they were in new contract maintenance, then you could not update them using the new contract import again to keep updating. Instead, it was not allowing you to do that. You either had to do mass change on certain fields. So now you're able to update fields once it's a new contract. So if you forget to update a field after you imported it, so you use this option to import your contracts into new contract maintenance. So then from here, if you forgot to update a field, maybe you forgot to update the label for everyone, or you forgot the new description, or you needed to update something in the position fields. Now you have the opportunity to do that by using the same spreadsheet if you want, taking off the headers that you don't want, but you need to do one extra step, going under more, and then click ID. Since this is a property that's already been created, the new contract is there, so it has its own ID for every employee now. You need this column here. to be on your spreadsheet. So if you need to update the label, all you need is the ID and the label in your spreadsheet. So once you got that in your spreadsheet created, the next thing you would need to do, there we go, is change that to new contract ID. So that header ID needs to be changed to new contract ID. So when you're going in and creating a spreadsheet for, I'll just say O'Connor. Oh, okay, and I do report. So field, if you have multiple people, you know, if you are a big district and you have like 3 pages to update, or if you have one employee, you can just type it or copy that. But if you need, you can create a spreadsheet for all the employees. There we go. And then the ID needs to be changed to that new, this one here, new contract ID. So that is where this has to be changed. Right there, this field here. So they just want to make sure they update that before they bring that back into new import. So once they update their spreadsheet, then they can go into new import again. Don't go into mass load because it's still going to be in new contract. Then they can re-choose that file and then import it, and it will update everything in new contract maintenance for that field that you're updating. So that is a new option. Okay. The next thing is an improvement was made to the hours greater than 40 calculations. There was instance where a position employee had multiple jobs and it was sharing a job calendar for the same one. And what it was doing, it was counting those days twice. So now the 40 over divide by week column on the notice, direct deposit notice will no longer count those days doubled. They only count it once. So if they see one work day on this, but it's on 2 job calendars for the same day, it will not count that anymore. The next one was an improvement was made to not allow any extra characters or numbers to be added to the account mapping. So now when they're in there and they're trying to save it, they're going to get this message saying the rows that the following orders exceed the maximum dimensions, which means if your fund is only 4 digits, but you add 5, it's not going to allow it. And it'll tell you that it's not allowed and you'll get the error. So then just to exit out of that little message, there's a little X here. You can just click out of that. So here I'll demonstrate. So, excuse me, the fund. So if you enter an extra digits, you're going to see that it exceeds it. And then also that'll be numbers or characters. Now, if you enter spaces in there, I don't know if that makes a difference. It might when you're, if it, once it's looking for the account number, but it doesn't, you can save it that way. So hopefully that will eliminate some of the issues with entering extra characters or numbers when you're in account mapping. For some bug fixes, there was one introduced on the 2025-16 release. What was happening, districts are trying to do the review task on the employee onboarding, and it was sending an error stating that it just couldn't complete it. So what they found was the position ID was not updated behind the scenes for the compensation and payroll items. So they updated that. And then the next one was another bug release on the 2025-17 release. The Info Ohio report, when they updated that home phone number up here on the that we were talking about earlier, that didn't get updated on that report. So once they updated that, and now it's looking at the correct property for that. And then the last thing I have is for the patches, and that was for the new Ohio State tax update, and those went out on October 1st. And if they have any questions on that, we did include the link here if they have questions on that tax table. Okay, that's all I have for the payroll side of September releases. If nobody has any questions, I can pass that along to, I think, Michelle.
Mary.
Oh, Mary. Sorry, Mary.
Yep. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning,
Stop
everybody.
sharing. There you go.
Well, if I can get to sharing my screen, we'll get there, right? All right. Let's see, you're not seeing the correct screen, are you? Let me try that again.
We're seeing the recap page.
You are? I'm not seeing that on mine. That's weird. Yeah. Yeah, that's the right screen. Okay. So we had 3 regular updates and then 1 fix. And the first update that we had was a auto refresh option that was added to the batch job view. So I'll show you where that is. If you go in as a admin and you go into system and then batch job, this is the item that has been added on here. It's a refresh and it shows you as soon as you go into the screen, it's a 5-minute reset. And then if you are in here for a little bit and you want to refresh it again, you can click on refresh. Or if you leave the screen and come back in, it will refresh on its own. So that was a new feature that was added in. And then we'll go on to improvements. The first one is about the opt-in flags or opt-out flags for leave requests or timesheet notification emails. So what happens here is if the configuration is set for leave requests and timesheets, they'll be able to see both of these. And if it's one of these is not configured, so for example, if timesheets are not configured for the district, the user does not have the ability and they will not see this box down here. So I can show you that real quick. I'll try to do it real quick. So what I would do here is I'd go into configuration and then ESS functionality. And I'm going to edit that. And I'm going to remove the employee timesheet one. Right now, I have Brent who's my guinea pig. Anyway, he did have both options, and now, and when I go in and log in as him, I'll see that I can only see the one option for leave requests. I don't know why that one comes up first, but it does. Let's see. And where they would see this is under their profile. And now all I have here is opt out of leave request emails. So that's what that first improvement was. The second one is a read-only mode for the organization view. That is to alleviate accidental updates. If someone was to go into that screen previously, they could update something and it would just automatically save it. So now it is intentional. You have to go in there and click on the edit button to get the change in. So I'll show you that screen as well. All right, so if I go into system And then organization, and most of the time there's not many changes on this screen, but in case they have to move their building somehow, new building comes up. So I would go in and click on edit. And I would say county. And then save. So that was the only change made on that screen. The next item is the update to the column change dialog to use a popover component. And that is behind the scenes change. So if I was to go into leave requests, and it's on the screens that have, sorry, my screens take a long time to pop up for some reason. This more button right here, it's the component that brings this screen up. And it's something that you wouldn't notice nor as a user, but you can still do the same thing, add a reason, remove a phone number, whatever you need to do, it'll still do it. And the next one is to create a view to allow users to see their own, excuse me, their own data change requests. So that's this one here. And I'm not sure if I'll be able, well, let me go, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to log in as Brent again. And the reason I'm using the same login here is because it tries to default my passwords and it creates chaos for me whenever I try to log in as a different person. So I'll show you Behurst again. And as a user, if they've submitted data change requests, they're now going to be able to see that under here, under the data change. And they'll be able to filter which data changes they want to look at. And they can go in, like, for example, this one's been exported, so they could go in and see exactly what was changed. So I changed the first name from Brent to Brianna at that point. And then their ethnicity. And if you click into the tabs, you can see the other changes that were made. Okay. The next one that I have is auto refresh grid option was extracted to the shared library. So that code that we saw on the job is also being used in sub coordinator screen. So if you go in as a sub coordinator, that same code that's used to generate the sorry, again, this is taking forever. There you go. This refresh option here, that is what was extracted out so that they can use it on multiple screens. So it's a background item that they're going to keep using for different screens. Okay. The next one is to prevent audit logs from being written when syncing absences from ASOP that are unchanged. So what they found is that the audit logs were getting very large. And when they dug in a little deeper, it was creating an audit log for items that were not changed just because it was comparing. And it's comparing every 5 minutes. So it was creating quite a bit of quite large log files. So they changed it to that if there is no difference between what was submitted originally and that particular time that it's creating the log, if there's no change at all, then they would not create the log. There would be one and that's it. So that's saving a lot of space for them. Along the same lines, if someone changed their password, it was logging that change that they created a new password, but since it's not on the audit reports, they removed that audit as well from the tables. Filters have been added to the logging grid in the monitor service for that logger tab, and I will show you that one. As an admin, you would log in and you can see it under system area. So if I go to system and then monitor, what they had probably last month, they had added these filters at the top for metrics and for environment, so that you can search quickly for something you want to see. And they've done the same thing with the logger file. So it would bring up whatever you need here to look into. Let me get to the next one here. The W-2 digital delivery is going to require that users acknowledge a selection. So they're going to have to opt in or out on their next login. And they can't get into the system or do anything until they make a selection. So this is an example of the screen. If I log in as a user for the first time since this has been implemented, it's going to ask me, I think I used, hopefully this works. I don't think I changed it, so. Okay, so it's going to require that they make a decision here, and it helps them by giving them the legal name that is in USPS, so they have to use that legal name. And then they would pick today's date. And then they would pick their decision. And I know it sounds odd, they never did give consent, but this is the only choice they have. So they'll say, do not give consent. And then they submit it. And if she goes in to look at her profile, and she wants to know what she did with the W-2 acknowledgement, it will say that right here. Okay. This next one is an improvement on the timesheet holiday when they're entering information in for a holiday that's being created. You are able to attach that to an employee's position, either all positions or certain positions. So I'm going to go in as Kristen Miranda. I'm sorry, as Anderson. So if I go to timesheet manager, I lost it here. My screen's kind of locked up. I can't log. Oh, there it goes. All right. She does not have, I don't know what happened here, but she does not have a timesheet manager. I apologize. I can't show you this right now for some reason. Thought it was under the admin, my admin. Yeah. For some reason, I don't see my timesheet stuff. How am I missing that? But in any case, if you go into timesheet, you will see that the holiday will have the, and I just did this yesterday. You'll be able to select, I'm going to bring over my screenshots that I had from yesterday so you could see that. Okay, so in this section right here, if you double click where you entered the person's name that you want to have on that timesheet holiday, this is the holiday that I selected. If you don't want it for all their positions, it defaults all positions, you would change it and select whichever positions you'd like. And then once you save it, it looks just like this, where it has the person's name and their positions that this particular holiday would affect. And sorry about that. I don't know why it wasn't coming up on the admin page. If you have any questions, let me know. The next one is that they extracted reusable audit report functionality for both ESS and IPI-DIPI for the audit report section. So the code that they were using for creating the audit reports in ESS, they are also now using those in the IPI-DIPI system. This next one is issue that we were having when someone would enter a 0.5 to filter for a particular column. And these columns were like in the expense report view or timesheet view, and you would enter a 0.5, it was creating an error. And what they found out was that it didn't recognize it as a number. So now if someone enters a 0.5, it treats it as a number. It was expecting a 0.5, but users don't have to enter the 0 and 0.5. They could just enter the 0.5 and it will still find the records that it's looking for. The next item I have are bugs. This is another one on the timesheet that I'm not going to be able to show you, so I'll show you on my screen here, or my notes. So what happened in one of the releases, this plus minus was missing when you would go in to try to make a change on a timesheet. Now that those buttons are back, when you click on edit, you'll be able to select a row or add a row, and you can still make the changes that are necessary. The next item is a fix on the for a bug that was doing a silent rollback. This one was kind of limited to certain, not very many people had this issue. And it was when they were doing an edit to a leave request. So it was, let me get my, okay. They would get a 500 work error, and it was because they're in the background, it still hadn't selected the workflow that particular leave was supposed to go in. So it would create that 500 error. They've added a field to capture the actual error that's happening, and then now it will handle that error properly. And then they also fixed a bug that was causing users to see the W-2 digital acknowledgement whether they selected something already or not. So even if they had selected to give consent to receive it electronically, it was popping up that screen when they logged in. So they quickly fixed that just after the release. So that's been fixed, and only people who did not select to receive or not receive that will get that screen pop up when they log in. The next one is a patch that was internal. The mass load option in the drop down, the import button was not shown. So now, if you go into system and then mass load, you will see here, you will have to select which option you want. Then it'll show you the import button. You also need to select a file to upload before the import could load anything. And just a note on that one. It does look a little different, and it may change to where you have to, it'll show the import button as you get in the screen, but they're working on that one now. And I think that's my last one. Yeah, that's my last one. So I'm not sure if I need to turn that back over to Pat or Andrea. But if anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat box there. No questions? How about everybody have an absolutely wonderful weekend? It's supposed to be pretty in Ohio, so hope you all have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody.